Okay, my first question was the research process question. I went with this question because I felt like I learned a lot about being able to build a research question based solely on something that your secondary sources are missing. So for me, I coming to this class or before coming to this class prior, I had already had a bunch of research experience, but it was mainly science based, and it was all really based on making or building an experiment based on a hypothesis. But with this class, you had to build a question based around your secondary sources, and then you had to make your let me see, what is it called? It was called, okay, right here, make your research method. You couldn't make your research method just from your secondary sources. You had to first develop a research question based on what your secondary sources are missing. And then from there, you could choose a research method, which could have been an experiment, an observation, a document analysis, a focus group, an interview, or a survey. Whereas I'm only very experienced with an experiment, which is what I ended up going with. But that was mainly because this type of research method fit my research question the best. However, in this class, we had a multitude of research methods that we could have picked from. However, with the help of the critique and research question, I was able to do this a lot easier, and it was all very streamlined because of this. Here, mainly, this is the most important part of this, was figuring out what your secondary sources are missing. And it's something that I had never done in an English class before. So this really did help a lot because it asks you like, oh, what's missing? Like, what's one thing that you've noticed that all your sources seem to not, I guess, hit base with, or what's something that they fail to acknowledge, or that they don't realize, something like that. And then right here, I can go with uh, what's a similarity between these gaps that I found to be able to build something out of this, which would ultimately be the research question. So I learned a lot on how to find a research question from my sources because of this. Secondly, I went with the integrating secondary sources. And I went with this not because I didn't know how to integrate my secondary sources into my paper, because I know how to do that fairly well, and that didn't really change coming into this class or even finishing this class. However, one thing that did change and I didn't know how to do very well was how to find good uh, research or secondary sources. And something that helped substantially was the craft sheets. The craft sheets helped a lot because with the help of the craft sheets, you can determine how credible and how good your secondary sources actually are. Because with these, you can put right here the date, the audience, where they were published, from what side, or how do they sound, do they have any political or ideological, culture, religious, institutional, or personal biases. Like it offers you so many questions that by the end of it, you end up having a really strong or a very weak secondary source, and based on what you get at the end, will determine whether you keep your source or not. And this is something that I wasn't very good at prior to coming to this class. So because of the crap sheets, it really helped me find better and more credible sources, which ultimately led to me being able to make a better research paper, or a paper that helped make a better research question. Lastly, my final question is the fitting genre into audience. So I went with the craft sheets that helped me do this, because in the craft sheets, you get asked what your audience is for all of your different sources. And all your sources may have a different audience. However, the audience that your sources are going for will probably be the same audience you're also targeting. So for me, it was, which ties back into the genre and audience. For me, my audience was professionals, so educators, teachers, Oh, and also parents. So I couldn't have a very casual tone in my essay. I had to use very, I don't want to say sophisticated, but very professional uh, language, and I had to use good punctuation. And even when I built my research question and also did my experiment and my videos, I had to have a very serious tone, and that everything had to be very professional because at the end, my audience was, professionals and parents. So I couldn't just be like, oh, having a very, I guess, chillaxed slang and casual, speech. I had to be very professional. I had to sound very serious, and everything had to be very serious. And because of the crap sheets, it helped me determine my audience a lot better because one, I could look at all the different audiences that my papers were or that my sources were targeting, and I could determine whether I was targeting the same audience or if I was going in opposite direction. But for me, it ended up being that I was going for professionals, just like my sources. So these are some of the things that I learned in your class, Bonnie, and I enjoyed it very much.